When our birds, in contrast with the last 2 or 3 weeks' programmes, are taking a bit of a back seat in today's news, although bird tables are still managing to get into the limelight. We're going to let some other animals shine, and all of them are animals that come into our back gardens.
And some pretty big ones at that, because Mr. Stanmers, who lives up in Braemar in the Scottish Highlands, sent us this photograph of a red deer pinching food from a bird table. And apparently during that very cold spell we had fairly recently, it wasn't only just coming into back gardens, but red deer were wandering down the high street as well.
Well, all right, how about fallow deer? Now, film cameraman Eric Ashby filmed some specially for Wild Track coming into his back garden. They're not actually that uncommon in back gardens, but he did have to film them from indoors because they're very, very easily put off. They're browsing on cut holly that he's put out. They normally live in thick undergrowth, but occasionally they come and live in sort of scrubby land round houses. So if you're very lucky, you might possibly see them. They're also nudging apples off his trees, which have lured them in.
Well, after deer, grey squirrels on a bird table. And would you believe this one was being particularly cheeky? It was having a go at one of our Bird Brain of Britain tests. What
actually happened was that Simon King was out in somebody's back garden filming for the Bird Brain thing, and this squirrel came and elbowed its way in on the action. There's the squirrel. There it is climbing up towards the bird table. There's a great tit on the top. One of those circular jobs which has to push around to get the peanuts out. Squirrel's having a good look. Half gets up onto the table, thinks better of it, goes down. Circular test starts to move around, goes right down to the ground. There go the peanuts. Where are they gone, says the bird. I've got them, says the squirrel.
Well, squirrels aren't too unusual on bird tables. Red deer are pretty unusual, but how about an animal that qualifies as one of the rarest mammals in Britain? A pine marten. And we've got film of not one, but 2 of them on a bird table. So when we heard about it, we sent our film cameraman, Martin Singleton, off to the Scottish Lochside, where I first saw pine martens last summer. And he went along to film their nighttime activities. Ah, there's something in the gloom. It's climbing up the bird table. Must be a pine marten. Oh, and there's the other one already on the bird table. The one on the right is smaller than the other, and Bob reckons it's one of this year's litter of kits. It'll probably have been born in March or April, and although it's only a few months old, it's now fully sexually mature and independent. And apart from its size and that slightly softer-looking face, it's no different from the adult. When the kit first grows fur at about 3 weeks old, its coat is soft and woolly and lighter brown than the adult. But in its first winter, it molts to a darker coat. So this one has only just grown its adult coat. I really can't get over seeing 2 pine martens together, especially when you consider that most people who've lived in Scotland all their lives have never even seen one. Mind you, Bob's even luckier, because he's seen 3 together, which means that somewhere out there in the dark there's probably another kit. Well, they've both gone off. Ah, here comes the adult back again, and it's got something in its mouth. It's collecting biscuits, which is just what the pine marten was doing when I saw it. At the time, I thought it was taking food back to its young, but since the kits must be independent now, I think this time it's probably a case of its eyes being bigger than its tummy.
I wish I had them in my back garden. Well, now, having said that birds are taking a back seat, the next item is a birdie one. We've just had a report in, but in fairness, it's about birds that you wouldn't normally expect to see in your back garden.
It certainly is, because it's a kestrel. Just have a look at these photos that Robert and Catherine Webb sent in. They're only aged 6 and 3, and apparently this kestrel keeps arriving at their grandparents' bird table every day.
OK, we've had red deer, we've had fallow deer, we've had grey squirrels, we've had pine martens, apart from kestrels. How about mice? But not coming and cadging off bird tables, mice coming to their own specially designed mouse table. Now, Matthew Woods, who I'm sure you know, he's been on this programme lots of times before, got his dad to build one in their back garden. And here he is to tell us all about it.
Right at the back of our house is the place we've constructed our small mammal table. This is an ideal situation for a mammal table. It's got a bank here on this side and a window at the back for viewing. It's a wooden baseboard here with earth and moss and logs on to protect the animals, and running over the top is wire netting to prevent predators such as owls and cats getting at the mammals while they're feeding. 8 o'clock and there's a full moon, just right for mammal watching. We've had mice, shrews and bank voles here, and with plenty of seeds out. I wonder what we'll see tonight. There's something moving. It's a wood mouse. Yes, it smelt the seeds. And it's found them, and it's hungry. Now that one is cleaning itself there. We know that mice carry lots of diseases, but they do keep themselves well groomed. But look there, in the shadow. Another mouse has arrived. Now that's a yellow-necked mouse, not a wood mouse, because it has a yellow marking on its neck. Now this one doesn't seem to be interested in eating, probably just inquisitive. So mouse watching over, time for a cup of coffee. Dad, I'll have to set those traps again. Now there's one way to get rid of mice without killing them, and that's using live traps such as these Longworths. Now there are 2 important ingredients for trapping: seeds for food and hay for bedding. The bedding is to keep them warm, and the seeds are to attract them into the traps. The trap set, but I still didn't know what kind of mouse it was in the loft. I had to wait until morning to find out. I was soon to discover that my uninvited guest was a house mouse, and now I had to find a place to release it. House mice can travel very long distances, up to a mile, so I made sure it was far away and given a proper home. I'm releasing the house mouse at these disused farm buildings because they're an ideal habitat for them.
And here is a mammal table just like Matthew's. Now, as you can see, it's got a wooden base about 1/2 metre, perhaps 3/4 metre square. And the actual table itself is fixed to the windowsill so that you can see the mammals were on the table, but you're comfy inside. That's something probably your parents have to do because it's quite heavy and cumbersome. And then over the top, there's a frame, also out of wood, which has got chicken wire all over it, and that's to stop the cats getting at your mammals when they're feeding on your table. Now, you might remember, of course, that Matthew had a bank in his garden, which was very convenient for the mammals because they could just get onto the table. But if you haven't got a bank in your garden, most people haven't, you're going to need some alternative methods of letting the animals get up. You could use a rope for nimble climbers, such as the field mice, or possibly you could use a bough for animals such as dormice, which you can just climb up, or even a bit of plastic drainage tubing. I reckon something like a vole would get up that.
I've seen bigger beasts than voles get up plastic tubes. You might
dear.
get an interesting surprise there. Now, once the thing's built, you will also need some bedding for it because these little animals like to burrow, so lots of dried grass or leaves or something like that. It's also a nice idea to give them a branch or a log or something to climb up like that. Now, the ultimate pièce de résistance, because don't forget that these animals come and eat at night in the dark, is to put in something like a waterproof electric light. Your mum or dad will probably have to do this for you, but the important thing is that it's got to have either a red bulb or a red filter in front of it, because mice won't be bothered by that. Right, shall we go and have a great
I'll close it
illuminating
down.
session?
You can try and
All right.
turn it on from inside, okay?
Here we go, ready?
Okay,
Boom, boom.
great.
How about that? Illuminated mouse tray. Now, if you can't have a waterproof light, you can use an ordinary torch like that, but remember, put some red cellophane over the front of it, okay? And don't forget that if you are catching mice in the house, do go and check regularly and let them go afterwards. Now, I don't know how smart mice are, but pigeons are pretty intelligent birds, I reckon. We've been trying out some of our Bristol pigeons over the last 3 weeks on an even more fiendish variation of our robot feeder arm. And just this morning, we thought they were about to crack it. So, Sue went up there on the roof to investigate what was going on.
Well, it seems that our local pigeons are getting brighter every week because remember last time we showed you our robot arm up on the roof here, they only had to hit 2 buttons to get some food. This week they have to hit 3. There's a red one, a yellow one and a white one. When they hit the red one, it scoops up the food from the little container. When they hit the yellow one, it brings the food across with the robot arm. When they hit the white one, it actually delivers the food down into the tray. But they can't hit the next button until the robot arm has stopped moving, so they've got to learn to be patient as well. Let's see how they get on. And here come some pigeons. They're feeding on bits of grain on the roof there. Not very interested in the buttons at the moment, but as soon as they run out of grain, they're sure to want a new supply. Ah, there's one. It just pecked the red button. Now there goes the scoop. It's going to scoop up the grain, ready to bring it across. Now that one's pecking the yellow button, but too soon. The scoop hasn't finished. It won't work until it's finished. Ah, now that yellow button's been pecked again, and here comes the scoop right across. And also, that pigeon's jumping up and down on the button. I think it's trying to hit it with its tail or something. Now they've got to, of course, do the white button to get the food delivered. And there's one looking very interested in the white button. Hasn't pecked it yet, but looks like he's going to do it any minute now. Ah, and there he goes, and he's hit it with his tail. That's very clever. That's a new technique. And there's the food being delivered. They're not too happy about that. They don't like the noise, I don't think. And now they're making the most of all that grain. Seems a bit hit and miss, but they have learnt to wait between the buttons, so they are getting the food.
Let me just remind you that next week we are announcing the grand finalist of the 1985 Wild Track Bird Brain of Britain. So if you happen to have Superbird lurking in your back garden and you haven't told us about it, do let us know quick or it'll be too late. OK, enough of that. I wonder if you saw the film Star Wars with that Death Star thing that charged around the universe wreaking havoc. Well, it is just possible that it or something like it actually exists. And if it does, it is just possible that it provides the answer to that great mystery of why